We're going to take a look at meiosis and mitosis and the advantages and disadvantages of both of these methods of reproduction. So if you can remember, sexual reproduction involves meiosis, which is the production of 4 genetically non-identical daughter cells, whereas mitosis is used in asexual reproduction and results in the production of 2 genetically identical cells. Sexual reproduction is the fusion of male and female gametes. Cells and reproductive organs divide by meiosis to create these gametes, and gametes contain half the number of chromosomes found in all body cells. So, each cell has a pair of chromosomes. So this is known as a diploid cell. So diploid cells have a full set of chromosomes, so 2 copies of each one. During meiosis, each pair of chromosomes replicates and the cell splits in 2. So this produces 2 identical cells. These cells then divide again, which creates 4 genetically different gametes that each have half the number of chromosomes of the original parent cell. Cells that have only 1 copy of each chromosome, for example gametes, are known as haploid cells. During sexual reproduction, the male gamete fertilizes the female gamete, and the fertilized cell will now have the normal number of chromosomes, which in humans is 46, so 23 pairs. Once the gametes have combined, the new cell will divide by mitosis, so the cell will grow asexually. As soon as the embryo reaches a certain size, the cells begin to differentiate, which means specialize. So a cell might become a bone cell or a muscle cell or a brain cell. That means it's becoming specialized. So let's recap what happens in meiosis. So it produces gametes which each contain half the number of chromosomes, and these are known as haploid cells. It's involved in sexual reproduction, where the male gamete will fertilize the female gamete. And at the start of meiosis, the pairs of chromosomes replicate. And then there are 2 cell divisions. Some organisms can reproduce sexually or asexually, and this includes examples like fungi, malaria parasites, and also strawberry plants. So sexual reproduction produces variation in the offspring. This increases the chances of a population being able to survive environmental change by natural selection. This is because some individuals are more likely to be adapted to the new conditions. Humans can speed up artificial selection through selective breeding of plants and animals, and this all depends on genetic variation. So because if there's genetic variety, you can select organisms that have certain characteristics that you want. If there's no variety, everything's identical, so you can't select them for these things. This process has many benefits, including boosting food production or things like breeding fast horses if you're into horse racing. So that's the advantages of sexual reproduction. What are the advantages of asexual reproduction? So we talked about some organisms before that can reproduce sexually or asexually. And these organisms will often choose to reproduce asexually when the conditions are good. This is because if conditions are favourable, producing lots of identical offspring is a positive thing. Because if an organism is well adapted to survive in certain conditions, and if they're all identical, they're all going to be able to do well as well in those conditions. That changes if the conditions change and they're not as well adapted. Asexual reproduction is also faster than sexual reproduction, and you don't need a mate for it. So it's more efficient in regards to time and energy because you don't have to go and find a mate. So to recap that, the advantages of asexual reproduction are that it's faster, you can produce identical offspring, which is good if you've got favourable conditions, and you don't need to waste time or energy finding a mate.